Hello. Hi, dear ones. I can't believe it's already Tuesday again. Welcome. How are we doing? Welcome to another self-love sermon every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Instagram, on Facebook Live. You're so welcome. Giving everyone a chance to tune in so we can tune in. How are we doing? Once you get here, put a comment in the chat below letting me know you've arrived. A couple of reminders for today. You can share this video once you join. You can share it directly if you're on Facebook to your Facebook feed, and it will invite your friends to join along with you. It can be a really good way to grow our community in the moment. And once you're here, let me know you can hear me. Got my fancy microphone going on for those of you on Facebook. These self-love sermons will be available as a podcast as well on SoundCloud. You can find me there at Luminous Leanings, of course. And I will share out the audio version, the video, as a blog post at luminousleanings.com, as well as in my newsletter. So if you haven't signed up yet, I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter at luminousleanings.com. I try to send a weekly newsletter with that week's blog post, of course, the self-love sermon, and sometimes I throw in some extra goodies, some guided meditation freebies, some journal prompts, of course, exclusive offers. And I'm just realizing I might have gone live on the wrong page. So I'm just going to make sure I am live in the right place. I think I am. All right, yes, I am live in the right place. Just wanted to check. Once you're here, let me know. Say hello in the chat below. Tonight we're going to talk about manifestation, Womxnifestation work. And it's all about drawing towards yourself the experience you wish to have, what you wish to feel, what you wish to accomplish in this life, what you desire. And specifically, we're going to talk about the difference between that and striving. What does it feel like to strive for something? And how are they different? It's going to be good. I'm excited. So once you're here, go ahead and join me in lighting a candle. This is how we put boundaries around our self-care and really hold space for our own experience during these sermons. We can have our own rituals, even if we're not in church. Can I get an amen? You are so worthy of ritual, of the experience of carving out space, time, energy, magic, intention for your own self-love, for your own self-care and self-compassion. As long as this candle is burning, we are intending to love ourselves and to learn from ourselves. Learning is really the goal here. I believe we're all here to learn about ourselves, to become more aware, to train our awareness. And that is my goal for these self-love sermons. All right, and just a reminder, I give these talks freely, and if you feel led to make a donation to support the work of Luminous Leanings, the support of caring for yourself. Hi, Micah. Welcome. Finally have someone on Facebook. Welcome, welcome, dear. I've been chatting with myself. But of course, these will be available as a podcast, as a video later, and up on my blog post, as I mentioned. I'm just putting a couple of links in the chat. The first one, as I give this talk freely every week, if anyone feels led to make a donation, please feel free to support the work of Luminous Leanings. My ultimate goal, we're going to be talking about goals tonight and how to manifest them. My ultimate goal is to open a retreat center someday, to buy a farm and hold mindfulness retreats, yoga retreats, embodiment retreats, to facilitate them, to facilitate others in this work, and to just kind of have a space where we can practice together, where we can feel vibrant together. And I can't do that without money. So if anyone feels led to support this work, I will be sharing the link as well with the recorded replay of tonight's talk. And the second link I'll be sharing is to sign up for reminders for self-love sermons, and just explains a little bit more about the self-love sermons, what they are, what I'm doing here, who I am, all that good stuff. So yes, I have one live viewer right now. And I'm just going to get started, Micah. It's you and me. All right. So we're going to talk about Womxnifestation. I call it Womxnifestation, or sometimes my accent comes out Womxnifestation. It's really manifestation work, but through the lens of the feminine and the divine feminine, the sacred feminine. What does that mean? When I talk about the divine feminine, I'm really talking about the magic of carrying life in your body, the magic of having a womb, being womb-bodied, being a cyclical person, being someone who literally every month or month sort of regenerates themselves and again experiences that life, death, life cycle over and over again. I think that there's great magic in that. This, of course, is meant to be inclusive to anyone who identifies as a woman or anyone who is womb-bodied. But whether you have children or not, biologically, this power, this sacred feminine power, propels us to create, and create from the perspective of being intimately in communion with life and death. This is sort of the spirituality behind the divine feminine, and it's something I've been learning more about in my moon circle and just in my own exploration. And the way it really relates to manifestation work is, again, this magical power to create life, to create reality, to be a vessel of the divine, to be the creatrix, the witch, or the one who wields her energy for the benefit of her community and for all beings everywhere. And so I think merging that feminine or femme leaning magic with this like very traditional sort of manifestation work of visualizing what we want and bringing it towards ourselves is really, really powerful. And I'm sort of rambling on about it, but this is something that in my own practice has been really helpful. And so I thought that that's where we would start tonight. And just to kick us off, I invite you to type in the chat if there's something you're really wanting tonight. Is there something like, what is your relationship to desire? What is your relationship to longing tonight? Like, what are you striving for? What are you hoping for? What are you envisioning? And I know, Mike, I only have one live attendee. And if you don't wish to post it in the chat, that's perfectly fine. I'll just share. And for those of you watching the replay, reflect on this. Like, what is your relationship right now to longing? What are you longing for? It's a great inquiry because it so often propels everything, our thoughts, our emotions, our lives. We're going to talk about the different types of longing tonight. I am longing for a lot of big things. Like, I'm longing for a world that is more just. It's sort of emotional to tap into it and to touch it right now. Longing for a world where facts matter, where leaders are competent, and where the righteous anger of so many is sort of brought into reality. Like, we don't need to be righteously angry because we have used it to create the village, to create the world so many of us long for, a world with true racial justice, a world without patriarchy, without white supremacy, a world that is healed, a planet that is healed. I long for these things deeply, deeply. Micah says, stuck in the thought I have to earn things rather than deserving them. Ooh, yes, we're going to talk about that tonight. Manifestation is so tied to worthiness work. I mean, what isn't? But it truly, truly is. And it's really interesting, sort of the cycles of what blocks our manifestation and what, when we remove it, can create just an absolute flourishing, a flourishing of what we want. And also dealing with sort of the guilt and the shame and trying to sidestep any attachment to feelings of needing to earn the pleasure, earn the vision, right? It's all layered, but we're gonna handle it together. So lovely. So just really keeping in mind a vision, like, what do you want? What are you striving for? What are you desiring? And particularly tonight, we're gonna draw in our intuition, our future self. If you haven't met your future self yet, I would encourage you to check out the meditation at luminousleanings.com. You can just search for future self. It's a really fantastic exercise. It's great to meet your future self 10, 20, 30 years in the future. They can help guide you and support you through this really powerful manifestation work. All right, so we're actually going to start off with a little practice. So I invite you to come into stillness and close the eyes if it feels okay, or soften the gaze if that feels more safe. Take a deep breath in and out. And in and out. I invite you to feel into your body landing here, whether you're joining us live or at the replay. Landing in this self-love sermon, landing in your intention to love yourself. You want to love yourself or you wouldn't be here, dear one. And I invite you to call forth your future self or your intuition or your higher self. And if you haven't really met them yet, If you're watching the replay and you haven't met them yet, I invite you to call on them anyway. Ask them to show up. Ask them to be here with you in whatever form they take. They might take the form of a light, a purple light, an amethyst, just an energy or a feeling. These are your guides. They live within you. They are part of you. They help you see with clear, intuitive sight, with wisdom. Allow them to commune here with you as we do this work. And also, just as we acknowledge our higher self, acknowledge the self on the lower frequencies. Acknowledge the inner critic if they are present. Acknowledge anxiety if it is here. Just see if you can bow to it without resisting or pushing it away. Allowing it, as we spoke of last week, to sit in the back seat. You can come along for the ride, but you're not driving this car. Because as we do this manifestation work, you will notice all egoic parts reacting out of fear, digging their heels in. So just become aware of that. We'll talk about that more later. With your eyes closed, continuing to breathe, picture yourself getting that thing that you've been longing for. Whether it's a new job, a specific partner, a type of friend, even something physical, a physical object that you want to purchase or be gifted with. Picture yourself getting something that you've been wanting. That thing finally happened. Now it is yours. Take your time with it and really paint a detailed picture. Like, what does it look like? What are you doing? What are you wearing? What's the room like that you're in, or the space you're in? Who are you with? Get super specific here. Get really detailed. Breathe. Ask your intuition to show you this picture. How do you feel? How do you feel in the visualization, the one who is getting the thing? And how do you feel watching yourself get the thing? What would it feel like to get this thing, to be this thing? What would it feel like? Sometimes in my mind, it's like a montage. I see multiple scenes, like a movie. Can even hear music. Once you have a sense of the feeling you would get if you got this thing, let it flood your entire body. Feel it in your toenails, in your eyelashes. Can you feel it in all parts? Physical parts, spiritual parts, emotional parts, mental parts. What is this emotion? What does it feel like? Lock into that. Breathe into that. And remember, you just manifested that feeling, that sensation, that emotion in your experience right here, right now, in the present. You can bow again to the parts that helped you get here. Take a deep breath in, sigh it out, and slowly, gently blink your eyes open, recalibrating, looking around the room, recontextualizing yourself with your surroundings, your present moment. I'd love to hear what you saw, if you would like to share. I always see myself in like a field of wildflowers, like wearing white and being a total hippie and feeling such a sense of belonging and connection to the earth. Like first and foremost, there's like an earth connection, and then to a community that I know I am building. I know I am drawing towards me. This is like magic work. This is the work of creating out of the void purely through tapping into desire, which is such a taboo thing. Let's quickly talk about what manifestation is not, or Womxnifestation. I can't decide which to call it. I don't know. Womxnifestation is not a gumball machine that you put a quarter in, okay? You're not going to just sit around visualizing and get it without doing the energetic work in your waking life, in your life off the meditation cushion, off the yoga mat. You still have to do the work. And we're going to talk about what that means and what that looks like. Okay? Well, manifestation is not a forced state of happiness either. It's not about saying, I feel good, I feel great, I feel wonderful. Like from What About Bob, where he repeats that to himself all the time out of force. It's about really like getting curious about, how do you feel good and why are you feeling good, and like why is that important for manifestation work. All right, just a quick pause to acknowledge Micah's comment. She says she saw in the visualization researching child development, giving trainings to school personnel, healthcare workers, parents on early childhood trauma. Wow, that is so beautiful, Micah. How exciting. What a beautiful vision. What a beautiful intersection of your talents and desires and the world's needs. Yes. How very, very powerful. It gives me chills. Gives me goosebumps. Such a beautiful intention. All right, so back to what Womxnifestation is not. So it's not a gumball machine. It's not a forced state of happiness. It is not a form of escape. That one's really, really important, because I think a lot of people think that they're just going to be daydreaming about, some idealized future that is with like so far out of reach that it really is just a daydream. But that is not the case. That is not the case at all. I have manifested some really material blessings in my life, including my relationship with my husband, like every detail of how I would meet him, that I would move to New York City, that like we would play music together. That was really important to me, that I would meet him abroad, that we would have a similar shared entrepreneurial vision, that we would both be interested in traveling the world. And it all happened. And it happened after I got really specific and just, I guess, daydreamed. I thought I was daydreaming. Embrace the daydream, y'all. Embrace the times when your mind wanders to an inkling of, well, wouldn't it be nice if? This is about letting ourselves go there. So that's what Womxnifestation is not. So now let's talk about how to get there. How do we Womxnifest? How do we draw towards ourselves these big visions and big dreams? The first step, as always, which is always my first step, train your awareness. Become hyper aware, as we already have tonight, of the parts that are present, calling in the higher vibe parts, the future self, the intuition, the guides, the parts of yourself that are most wise, and acknowledge the parts of yourself that aren't so wise, because they're here too. And they're going to try to thwart your journey and your progress. It's like super interesting to witness, actually. So be in communion with them, be in relationship with them. And also become aware of your intention. We've talked before about the power of intention. It really is the most powerful force in the universe. It creates everything. It creates our thinking, our emotions, our sensations in the body, our actions. Intention is powerful, and you must be aware of it, because whether you're conscious of it or not, you're positioning yourself through your intention. So if it's a subconscious, under the surface, below the line of your awareness intention, then you might actually be attracting something that you didn't intend to. And I'll give you an example. So often we focus on what's wrong with the situation. Well, I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel tired all the time. I don't want to feel, lazy or unworthy. We focus on the negative, right? And the negative has a place, but when that's the intention from which we're operating, then we're operating from a place of lack, right? We start the day with the thought, I don't have enough time, I'm already late, time is slipping through my fingers, or I didn't get enough sleep, right? It's always what there isn't enough of. We start the day with a lack mentality. What do you think we're drawing towards ourselves? Right? And we focus on, oh, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough community. This is all a lack intention. And so often it's under the surface. So we need to become aware. Become aware of what boomerangs we're releasing into the void of the universe, because you better believe they're going to come back. And they're going to get reproduced in the mind over and over and over and over. And it's really hard to train the awareness. It's not just becoming aware, it's training the awareness. And it's a practice, and it takes a long time. It's a lifelong relationship. So how do we make the U-turn from lack to abundance? We're actually carving neural pathways. We're changing our brains. We are changing our brains through this work, y'all. Talk about magic. Talk about power. Like, this is hard science. Neuroscience. It's pretty neat. So training the awareness to think about things in terms of abundance, possibility, widening the perspective. Like, what could happen? What could the day hold? And every time a negative lack thought slips in, it's not about forcing it to be positive. It's a very subtle dance. Can you feel what I'm saying? Do you understand? It's not about someone asking, how are you? And you're like, oh, I'm great, I'm fine, I'm happy, I'm wonderful. It's about having a thought and then choosing a better thought, a thought that feels better, that resonates in your body without force. Become really aware of those subtle differences. So that's number one. Number two, we have to embody our inherent worthiness. Hi, Daniela. Welcome. Welcome to the party. Party of three right now. We're talking about manifestation work tonight. How to draw towards ourselves that which we envision, that which we desire, and why it matters. So number two, embody your inherent worthiness. You have to believe you deserve these blessings in order to become a magnet for them. Okay? A magnet. You're drawing them towards yourself. If there is a feeling of unworthiness, if there is a sense of the inner critic is truly driving the car, if imposter syndrome is rearing its ugly head saying, who do you think you are? Then how do you think you're going to be a magnet for blessings? And again, it's a subtle, subtle dance. We don't want to reshame ourselves. We don't want to go down a spiral of, well, I felt unworthy, so therefore I must be unworthy, and I'm a bad person, and I'm not going to, because that's a spiral, and that's literally like Teflon for blessings, for miracles, for magic. Okay? So we can't identify with it. We have to try to practice non-attachment here, which is so interesting because we're talking about getting what we want without attachment. It's really a new mindset, a new framework. It's almost like trusting that that thing that we desire was given to us and placed in our hearts and in our minds by a higher power, by our intuition, by a very, very wise being, and that it's already out there. It's already ours, right? We don't have to be attached to it because we're trusting that it already belongs to us. Like, that's the difference. Does that make sense? It's the difference between striving and worrying about what we have to do externally to make it happen and just trusting that it's already here. It's already on its way. And that we are enough. And not every vision or every dream or every desire is going to be in alignment, and therefore is not necessarily going to be this cut and dry with non-attachment. I think if you can, again, pay attention to what you're getting attached to, what's creating suffering, what's creating a sense of I must have it or I will die, that thing might not be in alignment for you. Or you are certainly not in alignment to receive that thing. So get curious about it and be okay with the idea that not everything is going to be in alignment. And sometimes, especially when our egos are really activated and in control, we might think we want something, but that thing might not be good for us. So part of our prayer has to become to our intuition, to our higher self, to the divine. Like, may I draw towards myself what is in the highest alignment for me? And that's a piece of non-attachment. That's a piece of trust. But back to inherent worthiness, okay? I know it's easier said than done, especially as women. We're talking about Womxnifestation. So a lot of us have internalized the patriarchy. This idea that we are less than, that we're not good enough, or that we have to be pleasers, or we have to be selfless, that our worth lies in our selflessness. And so then, of course, how can we have a desire? How can we care about our pleasure? How can we feel that we are worthy of even having a dream, let alone getting it? So many women of like my mother's generation, I see it's like this empty nest once the kids are gone or once the retirement happens or both. It's like, who am I? Like the whole identity. There's a real identity crisis. And I see so many women in my generation not wanting to repeat that. And it's been very interesting. And I'm definitely of that mindset of like, okay, I saw one example of how to do this or how not to do this. And with compassion for myself and for all of those women who sacrificed a sense of self, I'm going to claim my freaking pleasure. Like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for that vision. I'm going to try not to be held back. Like, especially if your vision is for the community, right? Then it's in alignment. That's a good sign that your vision is in alignment. So embodying the inherent worthiness. So recognizing when the inner critic, the imposter syndrome flares up, it's saying, whoa, 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 you can't do this. You're not ready. You're not smart enough. You're not prepared. You don't have all the facts straight. You don't have all the evidence. That's ego nature digging its heels in because it can feel that you're letting go. The non-attachment is literally letting go of the ego, letting go of the part of you that says, I am this thing. I am the one who gets this thing. That's the identification. That's the ego. So when you start to release that, the ego will dig its heels in and flare up and become really strong and really scared. So how do we quiet it? Well, first, we don't resist it. We allow it a seat at the table, right? And second, self-compassion maintained by self-care. That's it. Like, that's it. That's how we cultivate our own worthiness. You are worthy. It's inherent. It's intrinsic. You are a soul embodied. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are made up of so much potential. It boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. Like, we're not using all of our brains. But if we did, what could we create? What kind of world could we build? That's your worthiness, is your potential, your capacity, and your most aligned desire. That's your guide right straight into the heart of your worthiness. The part of you that cares about caring, that cares about self-care, and that cares about others, that's your worthiness right there. I'm reading a book right now by Gabby Bernstein. She wrote a book called Super Attractor. It's pretty good. It's a really, really easy read. And it's all about like The Secret and Law of Attraction. And she weaves in a lot of teachings from A Course in Miracles. It's a super quick read, really, really easy and fun. And it just lights me up and makes me happy. And she says there is not a source outside of us that can save us from our sense of unworthiness. There is not a source outside of us that can save us from our sense of unworthiness. Like not me, not a coach, not a therapist, not a partner, not getting that thing. That won't save us from our sense of unworthiness. Okay? What will save us? Self-compassion. like figuring out that the only thing we ever really needed and really wanted was right here, accessible at all times. And this relates again to what we practiced at the very beginning. The magic of your nervous system is that you can imagine a felt sense of any emotion. Like, because of our mirror neurons, we can see someone crying and just burst into tears without even knowing why. And it's the same with this work. You can get really laser focused, crystal clear on what you want to feel. And then you can feel it. Like, you are capable, you are hardwired in this moment with this nervous system to feel any and every emotion that is available to you in the spectrum of human existence. You want to have a child and look into their eyes and feel overwhelming love for that child. You can feel overwhelming love right now just by imagining it. You want to feel fulfillment at a hard day's work, well done in the field of your choice, fulfilling your purpose here on earth. You can bring that imagined experience into your body, into your nervous system, and actually feel it. That is mind-blowing to me. And I think that's where the magic lies. The capacity is here. Like, we have all the tools. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So nothing is going to come from the outside. Again, the external striving causes suffering. Okay? But the internal aligned desire, that brings peace. There's a sense of, and so it is. And so it is. And it already is. And it's on its way. Sometimes when I'm journaling my intentions, I'll just write at the end, it's already on its way to me. And it just feels so peaceful to acknowledge that. So again, cultivating worthiness comes from self-care. So we've talked about some practices before to cultivate our worthiness. Just placing a hand on the heart is super sweet. Giving yourself a hug. It actually feels really good. It releases endorphins, right? It releases caregiving hormones. It activates the part of our brain that gives care as well as the part that receives care when you self-care. So it just feels good, and it makes sense to do this, even though we're not taught it. You can also create your own mantra, like, I'm here for you, dear one. I love you. I'm right by your side. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever you most need to hear, you can say to yourself. And especially with the unworthiness stuff, which is really nasty and really toxic and really painful, and a really necessary part of our experience, mantra can be a great way to verbally, out loud, just say, I am worthy. Say it with me. I am worthy. If my desires are in alignment, then they are already on their way to me. I will do the spiritual work of clearing blocks when I can, of feeling good and becoming a magnet for miracles. I went a little fast there. I don't even know what I said. But just create your own mantra. Say it out loud, write it down, see what happens. As I always say, get weird with it. Just go for it. Okay, so that was number 2, confronting the unworthiness, embodying the worthiness. And number 3 is getting specific. So I like to use the metaphor of registering for wedding gifts. Go around with the little gun in the store and you indicate the size, the color, the quantity, like everything that you want for that house, for that marriage, for that home. And it's the same with our manifestation work. You're allowed to be specific. And again, it's that subtlety of the line between being specific with what we're trying to draw towards us and being attached to the outcome that we're kind of straddling here, right? But start to notice how when you get specific, you actually get what you want. Like, we're so trained to, when someone says like, oh, where do you want to go eat? We're like, oh, I don't care, wherever you want to go. But really, we know we want that salad from that place with that dress. Like, we know what we want. Why don't we trust ourselves? Why are we so afraid? We're afraid of rejection. We're afraid of our unbelonging. I mean, that's really the core. We're afraid that if we put it out there and if we say exactly what we want, we're, especially as women, we're going to be seen as being too demanding, controlling. We're afraid that we're going to put the other person off and that their needs aren't going to be met, that we're going to steamroll them. But what a gift it is when someone in our lives knows what they want and speaks it. I mean, steamrollers aside, because we all have those in our lives. But when we ask someone, like, what do you want to do tonight? And they actually have a plan, doesn't it feel so good? Like, sometimes it's just so nice. So give that gift to the world. Give the world the gift of your specificity, of your knowing what you want. And just see how you get it. Like, if someone were to ask you, like, how do you want to spend this weekend? And you were just kind of like, oh, I don't know, I want to relax. Versus, oh, I know exactly how I'm going to relax. I'm going to take a bath at this time. I'm going to do this yoga class on Zoom. I'm going to, have a really intentional meal with my partner and like, we're going to play soft music. We're going to look into each other's eyes. We're going to be super present. Again, intention, setting it through our specificity. Indicate the color, the quantity, the size. Imagine every detail, dear one. Again, your inner critic's going to be like, no. And it's also going to be like afraid that if you put that out there, you won't get it. And that if you don't get everything that you specify, you're going to be left with, again, unworthiness. That's the irony of the inner critic. It's so afraid of being unworthy. It's so afraid of not belonging that it creates separation from everything, including worthiness and belonging. But you are allowed to be specific. You're allowed to know what you want. Number 4, prioritize your pleasure. Pleasure is not a dirty word. It feels good to feel good. Start to notice when you feel good and just say it out loud and acknowledge it. I feel good because I feel good when. Claim your pleasure. Hi, Michelle. Good to see you. Welcome to my self-love sermon. Got another viewer. Claim your pleasure. Pleasure is not a dirty word. Prioritize it. Like, start to notice, even if it's just you, yourself, and you at home. Like, get dressed up for yourself or put on something that feels luxurious. Maybe it's like a silk robe. Design your space to reflect that pleasure back. What do you want to see in your space? If someone were to invite you into their space, what would you want it to feel like, look like, smell like? And then do it. Create it for yourself. Like, you are allowed to do this. You are allowed to create the life you desire. Create the day you desire. Maybe start small, little incremental goals. Starting with tonight. What do you want to feel? How can you reverse engineer that experience to make it happen? Taking action can be the scariest part. But when you start to engage with what you want, that's when you actually see results. It's not just sitting on the sidelines. Again, manifestation work is not a gumball machine. Like, you have to do the work. And of course, your unworthiness is going to try to keep you frozen. Your inner critic is dying to keep you frozen. Frozen in a state of inaction, of paralysis. Thaw it. Thaw that ice with your own self-care, noticing what works for you, your own awareness. And just try it anyway. Fake it till you make it. That's a great mantra. That's a great starting point for this work. What's the smallest action you can take to feeling good? What's the shortest distance between the thought you have and a better feeling thought? And how can you get there? Incremental goals, baby steps. Baby steps, dear one. Stay with it. It is worth it. This is your relationship to you. This is the love story of your life. You are worthy. Let's live into it. Let's get after it. Life is short. Again, in that book that I'm reading, and now I've forgotten the darn name of it again, but the Gabby Bernstein book, she says, feeling good must come first. Everything else will follow. Destigmatize desire. Destigmatize your desire. You're allowed to want. Your desire is not bad. Sometimes it's out of alignment, but it is welcome. Let's welcome desire. Let's see what it has to teach us. Choose to feel good and see what comes next. And then, dear ones, number 5, reframe your fear and keep going. Keep going. The fear is going to come up again and again. It's trying to keep you safe, as we've talked about. It's trying to keep you alive. But it's also the ego digging its heels in, deathly afraid that you are rising into your power, the power of your connection to all beings everywhere, the power that isn't this identification with this persona, this identity, this body, this life. Because you're coming into your own, you're coming into your higher self. So that ego fear is like, no, don't let go of me. You're going to either feel afraid as you prepare to manifest, when you are imagining what you want, when you are afraid, when you're asking for what you want, or when you're getting what you want, or after you've gotten what you want, you're going to feel fear. You might feel fear every single step of the process. Start to form a relationship with fear. Marie Forleo says fear is just excitement pumping the brakes. Sometimes fear is valid. Like if you were going 100 miles an hour down the street in your car, like that would be a legitimate thing to be afraid of. But often it's not valid. And we can quiet it with a little self-compassion, a little gratitude, a little worthiness practice like we talked about. And there's also guilt. Don't forget guilt. Guilt is like the after effect of getting what you want. And then you're like, oh, I did not deserve that. I have made a huge mistake, or someone's made a mistake. That's the imposter syndrome. This degree, this thing I got, oh, they made a mistake. They need to take it back, or they're going to show up in the middle of the night and demand it back. Guilt, and fear. This is like excitement and gratitude pumping the brakes, I think. And what does that mean? Excitement and fear are two sides of the same coin. Start to notice that in your body. When you start to get really nervous before an event or before, a performance or something that really matters to you, What does it feel like? I can get like kind of shaky, kind of queasy. I recognize it as nervousness. But I recently started reframing it as, oh, this is really important to me. Like I'm having a visceral reaction. My nervous system is hijacked. It's because I really want to do well. I really want to make an impact. This is just really important to me. And then you can reframe it. Oh, I'm excited. My nervous system is preparing to outrun the jaguar. I mean, evolutionarily speaking. But the jaguar is performing in front of this crowd that I've been dreaming about. You know, the jaguar is getting everything I've actually ever wanted. Maybe the fear is that it still won't happen. Like sometimes we don't even believe something good's happening to us when it's happening or after it's happened. That fear is so real, y'all. Let's reframe it as excitement, pumping the brakes, but excitement nonetheless. And then keep going. That's the last piece. You are allowed to stagger forward, to stumble forward, to slip, fall, mess up. You are allowed. You are allowed. So I invite you tonight, as we're about to close, write yourself a permission slip. You can write it in the chat if you wish. I give myself permission to what? I give myself permission to feel good, to have a restful evening, to get things done rather than get things perfect. I give myself permission to feel vibrant, to be loud and expressive, to assert myself, to specify what I want. I allow myself to have big vision and a big dream, like so big that I might not get it. The probability is actually pretty high that I won't get it. But that just means the dream is big enough. Daniela, I give myself permission to enjoy my limits. Ooh, I love that. Do you want to expand on that? What do you mean by that? What limits are you enjoying? I want to hear more, dear Daniela. What do you give yourself permission to do? And also, I was going to have us do a breath practice. I know my Instagram live is going to cut out, but over here on Facebook, we can just do a really quick fire breath practice together. This is a great tool for really manifesting energy. Energy is so central to this work. When our energy is depleted, when we're stuck in a frozen state, how are we going to be that magnet? How are we going to be that magnet? Micah says, I give myself permission to take up space. Yes, that's a great permission slip, Micah. We all need that reminder, don't we? It seems so simple, but it's not. Beautiful one. So let's practice breath of fire together. So put your feet flat on the floor. Close the eyes if you wish. I invite you to bring both hands to the solar plexus, the point sort of halfway between the low ribs and the belly button. This is your chakra that represents the ego. I am. It's the seat of the self. And it's not a bad thing. It's part of you. And we can work with our egos to, especially in our careers, in our businesses, to project the self, the vision, the dream that we want. So we can work with this energy. So bringing the hands there, we're going to practice the breath of fire. And I'll give you an example of what it sounds like. It's just a really short inhale and exhale. Very, very small, shallow sips of air. But we're heating up, we're pumping, and we're using the belly and the solar plexus area to pump the air really quickly. Okay, so bye everyone on Instagram. Bye, Michelle. It's about to cut out there. But I am on Facebook at Luminous Leaning Live as well. So this is what the breath of fire sounds like. And I just invite you to join me in this breath of fire. This is the breath that they harness during Kundalini awakening work, during some of the Kriyas. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you Google it, because it's, talk about manifestation. That shit is powerful. I cry every time I practice it. So bring the hands to the solar plexus, maybe one there, one to the belly, whatever feels good. And let's begin. We'll go until I stop us, I guess, or until you don't feel like going any further. Okay. Take a deep breath in and out. Ooh, do you feel warm? I feel warm. Letting the breath return to normal. Continuing to expand the belly. We don't want to breathe in the chest. We'll hyperventilate. We want to breathe in the belly. I feel lightheaded, but like in a good way. Like just a slight lightheadedness, a connection for sure with the crown chakra, the third eye chakra. This is a great practice in the morning to begin your manifestation practice, or to seal your manifestation practice right before or after you write your mantra, your intention, that which you're hoping to manifest, or you say it out loud to kind of seal it in, really to engage that seat of self, the part of you that seeks self-actualization, to work with your striving, not against it, to bring your desires into alignment, and to really get embodied with that that fire of your passion, the breath of fire. We don't have to be afraid of our fire. Let it be initiatory. Trust it. Work with trusting it. Daniela, I always feel limited in my abilities to pursue what makes me happy and serene. So I accept them and invite them to be a part of me. Yes, we hold space for that, Daniela. So beautiful. Allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to look at your limits. That's so beautiful. Oh, I'm going to be thinking about that one. All right, dear ones. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you, Michelle, Daniela, and Micah, for joining live. And for everyone who listens to the replay, thank you as well. May you all go forth, get in touch with your pleasure, your desire tonight. And may we all bring forth the dreams that we are visioning, that are in the highest alignment, that are guided by our intuitions, our higher selves, our future selves. And so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Sending you so much love and gratitude. Good night, dear ones.